Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome everybody to the ZBA meeting for Friday, May 14th at 11 a.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Just a side note, because we're on Zoom, if you're not speaking, please mute to just reduce your feedback. I'd like to introduce our new village attorney, Vincent Messina. He is with the firm of Messina, Perillo, and Hill. If he's not available, Lisa Perillo will be sitting in, or Tim Hill. So who do we have today?
We have Ms. Perillo with me as well. She just turned her camera off.
Okay. Well, welcome. We're happy to have you.
Thank you so much.
So, first order of business is the minutes. Everybody have an opportunity to review the minutes? Any comments, changes, fixes? Anybody?
Just one grammatical change. I'll point it out to Pam, it should have said has as opposed to is on one of my comments. So
I'll search for that.
my second grade English teacher would be appreciative.
Send it over to Pam and we'll have it amended. So motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Pam, for doing a wonderful job as always. Next, we move on to determinations. Pam, do I read these?
Yes.
Okay. So we have three determinations. The first, in an application of Daniel Farber and Rachel Shaw, 70 Dayton Lane, Suffolk County Tax Map number 2-7-22, to legalize 2 air conditioning units is approved, and to install a swimming pool is denied. Do you want to poll the board, Ms. Bennett?
Sure. Mr. O'Connell,
I agree.
Mr. Humphrey,
Yes.
Mr. Rose.
Yes.
Okay. The next determination, in the application of Michael S. and Joan B. Haas, 19 Dumere Lane, Suffolk County Tax Map number 3019-4-1, to construct an addition to an existing residence is approved. Ms. Bennett, will you poll the board, please?
Mr. O'Connell,
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey,
Yes.
Mr. Rose,
Yes.
Mr. Barris.
Okay. In the application of Orion Properties LLC, 40 Further Lane, Suffolk County Tax Map number 3019-6-10.3, to make alterations to a single family residence is approved. Ms. Bennett, please poll the board.
Mr. O'Connell,
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey,
Yes.
Mr. Rose.
Yes.
All right. Moving on, we have a request for a modification of a variance already approved for Calvin Klein at 75 West End Road. Who's speaking for the applicant?
I am Phil. This is Lenny Ackerman. Rich Warren is also available to delve into this if anyone has any specific questions, but this is all part of a housekeeping measure. We're moving ahead to implement the determination that was granted last fall. And as part of the process, the new landscape architects have requested this modification. I think Billy has pretty well set forth the terms and what the request is, and his support has indicated that it's a plus in terms of adding to revegetation in the more specific areas that are impacted by SELA and by the wetlands setback line. As you all know, this is a very constricted property, and we want to make as much effort as possible to benefit by the revegetation work, both the SELA area and the wetlands.
Mr. Chairman, if I may make an inquiry, please.
Yes.
So, Mr. Ackerman and Billy, if you could just both weigh in for the sake of efficiency and for the board. What's being proposed here is now a superior plan from a number of standpoints than the one that was previously approved by the board. Billy, is that correct?
Sorry, unmuting. Good morning.
That's
Billy
when I'm at my
Ajak.
best, when I'm muted.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's no net reduction in overall clearing. The revegetation is being relocated to areas that are arguably more sensitive within the dune setbacks.
Right.
So I offer no objection to the proposed change or modification.
And Mr. Ackerman, is my summary fairly accurate?
That's correct, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for interrupting.
Does, Lenny, you finished with your?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Is there anybody from the public that would like to make any comments on this application?
There are several callers on the line. I could unmute them in order.
See if it's on. Let's see if anybody has any comments on 75 West End Calvin Klein. And then we'll have some comments on some other ones. Anybody?
Unmuting the first caller. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi.
Yes, this is Lee Wisher. I'm with a consultant with the Lenny Ackerman for the application, so I have no comment.
Okay.
So I think he's in favor.
Yeah, I would guess so.
Right.
Anybody else?
Second caller, unmuting you now.
Hi, this is Richard Warren from InterScience here on behalf of the applicant. You would just note that there's an actual increase in the buffer that's proposed. There's a net 2,030 square foot increase in areas on the property that would become planted with native vegetation over what was proposed previously and approved by the board.
Okay, any other callers on the line?
Yes, let me unmute the third caller. Caller, you're on the air. Doesn't seem like they're there.
Okay.
One more caller, let me unmute them. Caller, you're on the air, ending with 1573.
This is just Justin with Hollander Design, and here for any questions or comments.
Okay. And that's all the callers we have, correct?
That's all the callers right now.
Okay. Do any board members have a question for the applicant?
Yeah, I do. I have a few.
Okay, Mr. Rose.
So the couple of just questions regarding the maps and the survey. So I noticed that the what's referred to as the snow fence and some of the garden as exists crosses over the property line, or seems to cross over the property line into the area of the village, the property owned by the village/town. Is that that seems to be the case if you see to the western side? Can someone speak to that?
Well, this is Lenny. I'll speak to that. Joe,
in existence for years.
Yeah. I didn't see that show up previously in any survey readings, but if there's an encroachment there on the village right away, we'll have to deal with that. I'll have to deal with the village attorney about that. I wasn't aware of this encroachment, but
So you can see it now, right? Where it looks.
yeah, no, I see it. I see it. Right.
So you'll have that
And
corrected.
in point of fact, we're not approving a site plan here. What we're approving is the vegetation portion only. That's all it's before the board for.
Right. Right.
However, we'll make clear in any decision the board issues that, we cannot and we will not approve any encroachment onto anyone else's property. And that's to be worked out with the applicant and the property owner, whoever that may be. But
Joe,
we'll
is
make
that
clear that we're not approving that.
Joe, is that a snow fence? Is that what that is? A snow fence?
It's a snow fence, and it looks like the garden is on the village prop. This is all ties into the vegetation. I'm aware of what what we're approving and what the basis is. It's a modification to an existing plan.
Right,
The second thing is on the there's a referral in the description.
I see it. I see.
There are a bunch of rocks, as has been noted on West End Road, that people have placed for obvious reasons of trying to discourage parking. It looks like do we know who placed those rocks there, and there are some that are on the village property on both sides of the street.
Are they on the survey? Are they on the survey?
Hang on, I don't, which of my hundreds of surveys I have here, but if you go to the.
I don't see them on the survey. This is Nick Spadola. I don't see them on the survey. All I see is the private road, AKA West End Road.
Right, there are, it was mentioned in the report, in the, Lenny, in the report that you submitted.
Right. I think we have to, for 69, I thought we had to remove those, which we will. But I'll look into that. Actually, Joe, though, I'm more concerned about the other encroachment because we'll resolve that separately.
Right. And then the third question, this is a question in terms of the reason for this application being modified is to increase the amount of usable space in the as of right portion. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
Do you have any sense of what it is that's contemplated to be done in that area?
Well, they're considering as part of the overall site plan and the redevelopment of the property, perhaps to modify the pool and also perhaps to put in a tennis court or something like that, or expand the gardens or whatever. As you know, because of the setbacks, there's a very limited area here for accessory structures. So they want to utilize as much as they can that's between coastal erosion and between, the wetland setbacks from the pond. But there's nothing definitive yet, as of yet. Whatever we do, of course, would have to be as of right or require any further variances. But we're trying to implement a plan that will serve for the filing of the building permit within the sunset provision, and that's what we're up against here, Joe. We need to get filed. We need construction protocols, and we can't work under a prior landscape architect's plan. We have to have our own plan. In fact, and our architect is changed here as well. So there's new architect's plans as well. So we're trying to get a package together and just to, clarify as much as we can here so that we have a clear path to filing before the fall sunset provision.
So if there's a new architect, are you coming back with a new house design that we're going to have to consider for an additional variance also?
No, we need a new architect to do construction drawings for a building permit.
Okay.
No, we're not coming back for that. I'm trying to do this simply. This stood out as an issue, Joe, because when the landscape plan was done, inadvertently, they encroached upon as of right areas for accessory structures, and that's what's being cleaned up now.
Okay, and then just underscoring what you said before, that so this being done, because the revegetation once done should be done and not
it is
all the time.
Yeah.
So, I just would say that it would be important to understand that the application, understanding why this is being made, not to come back for additional things. Oh, we got it wrong back when we did this vegetation. We wanted with the tennis court or whatever it is that's coming in. We got to rip everything up and do it again. That would
no. This is the final plan. That's why I have the landscape architect on it and everybody and the pressure of doing this. And again, I appreciate Pam's cooperation in getting us on the calendar and Billy's cooperation in working with us over the last month is to do the housekeeping so that we're in a position. We're filing for last week we filed for health department. There's an awful lot that needs to be done here to go in and file for a building permit construction protocol. And as part of the construction protocol, we have to have the final plan, the final re-veg plan, but the building itself, the footprint, none of that is changing.
So just to be clear, I know Mr. Rose is not telling you that you're prohibited from coming back and making more applications, because you can do that. But what he is saying is that the board is would be less tolerant of that. Is that right, Mr. Rose? Is that a fair way of saying it?
Well,
Right.
skeptic. I think the point is that we're trying to
I
look at this as a whole, as the whole property, and it shouldn't be
right. And you can't do the Pac-Man theory.
Don't.
Right. Exactly. But we just want the record to be clear. We're not prohibiting. Nobody's asking to prohibit you from.
No, these are good points, Joe. This encroachment thing, first of all, is something we got to deal with right away. Okay, thank you.
And one other question, the Billy's comments will be incorporated. The following conditions be reinforced in any resolution amending the original
Yes.
determination.
Yeah,
Okay.
we support it.
Bottom of page 2.
Right. And that's the way the decision will be written, which will specifically incorporate. And Mr. Chairman, you make a good point. We probably should, again, just for a clean record, incorporate the previously held proceedings on this parcel and this application into the record here today. Okay. Just so that it's complete.
Does anybody else have any comments? All right, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Oh, no, we don't have a public hearing. I'm sorry, it's a modification.
Right.
All right, so the next step is, I haven't done the modifications before.
So what I think perhaps what you'd want to do is, if you're inclined, you can approve the modifications subject to the written decision, which will be voted on at the next meeting.
Well, we have a work session coming up. Why don't we just get it done for then and then plan on approving it at that point? It's good, coming up in 2 weeks.
Well,
All right.
All right,
We can do that.
Mr. Ackerman?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, great.
Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.
So Pam, put that on the work session.
Sure.
Thank you. And next we have adjournments. Do you want to read the adjournments, Pam? We have a request for adjournments. You're muted. You're still muted. All right, I'll read them. We have a request for adjournment from Jabber LLC 209 Further Lane. We have a request for adjournment for 106 Briar Patch LLC, which is 106 South Briar Patch Road. And we have a request for adjournment for 25 Cross Highway LLC, 25 Cross Road. Do I have a motion to accept those adjournments? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so those will be adjourned to the next meeting. Next, we move on to the continued hearing of 38 2 Mile Hollow LLC, 38 2 Mile Hollow Road. Who's here for the applicant?
I am Martha Reichert, Toomey Latham Shea, 33 West 2nd Street, Riverhead, New York. I'm here for the applicant, 38 2 Mile Hollow LLC.
Great, would you like to present?
Sure. Well, since the last hearing, we took the board's comments into consideration. We revised the planting plan. We submitted it to Billy Hayek for his review. Billy said that, and of course, I'll let Billy speak for himself, but that we had, incorporated the board's comments and that he had no further comments for the plan. So we're hoping that we'll be able to get the board's feedback on our new plan, which basically at issue was the application was originally to plant several arborvitae south of the 20-foot contour line. The board asked for us to use native vegetation, which we've done. We're now going to be planting eastern cedars in that location, and we'd like to get the board's feedback on that right now.
Anybody from the public want to speak?
There's one caller. Let me unmute them.
May I speak?
Sure.
Thank you. This is Tim Luke from 38 Two Mile Hollow. Thank you so much again.
Hang on, I think we
Shall
have
I
to
swear you in?
again.
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Thank you so much. My name is Tim Luke from 38 Two Mile Hollow Road.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for meeting with us again. We appreciated very much your comments from last month. I think our goal here was to just provide some bit of screening for the house from a very large public car park, which is next to the house, in order to have screening from the children and the family as you look in from the car park into the house. The board you had suggested, as Martha just said, that we should absolutely use native trees rather than our original suggestion was using the green giant trees. And we're obviously keen to do exactly what you would require us to do in terms of having native trees. And we have now developed the plan with the appropriate native trees as you had suggested, and shown and worked with Billy on that submission. So that was all, and we're very grateful for your time.
I have a question for you, Mr. Luke. When you purchased the house, the vegetation was not there, correct? You could see the car park when you purchased the house?
When we purchased the house had never been lived in previously. So we obviously assumed that it would not be contentious to screen the house. That was our supposition, that there was such a large car park looking in that we assumed that it would be possible to have the screening in order to have some sense of privacy in that area. So we were just now trying to do that in a manner that is totally compliant with whatever you would require us to do in the best way for the community.
Okay. Are there any other callers on the line that would want to comment on this application?
There's one caller. Let me unmute them. Caller ending with 1573. You're on the air. I don't think they're there.
Okay. Billy, you want to give us a kind of a summary? You wrote a nice report on this for us. I thank you.
Sure. Good morning, board. Billy Hajak for the Village of East Hampton. As Martha indicated, we had after the last hearing, we had reviewed and discussed alternatives. They came up with a plan that proposes a landscape of native cedar trees. I find the plant selection to be considered native for the area. I offer no objection to what they're proposing here.
Any board members have any questions for the applicant or for Billy? All right. I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And shall we vote on this, or should we send this one to work session? Anybody have any objection to taking a vote on this now? Joe, you good?
No, I'm good.
All right, so
Do we have to draft a determination?
well,
It would be subject to a written decision, of course. Whatever vote you take would be subject to a
Why don't
written decision.
I mean,
It gives me a clear indication, though, of how to write your decision.
why don't we just get into practice then of just having the decisions? We're gonna go, unless there's a problem in terms of timing, we could vote on, let's have determinations in advance of the vote.
Yeah, exactly. And
We'll do it at the vote session.
I think polling, everybody's clearly in favor of this.
Right.
So, all right, Mr. Messina, that's good.
very good. I have my direction. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Board. Thank you, gentlemen.
Everyone.
All right. Next, we have Paul and Maureen M. Stefanik at 43 Ruxton Road. Pam, do you want to read the public hearing notice, please?
Mhm. Application of Paul A. and Maureen M. Stefanik, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-12-911 for variances from Chapter 278 zoning to legalize and expand coverage with the construction of patios. A 795 square foot variance is requested from section 278 3A9A to allow 17,573 square feet of coverage, where the legally pre-existing coverage is 16,778 square feet, and the maximum permitted coverage by zoning is 14,513 square feet, and any other relief necessary. The subject property is 80,133 square feet in area and is located at 43 Ruxton Road in Residence District R160. This project is classified as a type 2 action in accordance with SEQA.
Linda O'Reilly for the applicant, correct?
Yes,
Want to take it away?
sure. Yeah, the legally pre-existing coverage, I think, is ascertained by looking at the prior survey that was done in '04 after the swimming pool was finished. There was a new swimming pool put in after '04. Well, actually, it was put in '03, but there's an '04 or '03 or '04. There's an '04, a December 2004 survey that then resulted in a CO on the entire property after the new pool was finished that that shows everything that was on the property at the time. And I think I submitted a copy of that survey with the application, so you have it. If you compare that survey that was the subject of the prior CO with the new survey, you will see that there are some really minor things that structures, as it's interpreted now, that are shown and depicted on the new survey that don't appear on the older survey. Those things are so minor that they include the following: a trash bin on the north side of the house, and a couple of stepping stones leading up to that trash bin, some widening of the pre-existing walkway by the back door, which is in the crook of the house. The house is kind of L-shaped, and in the center of the crook of the house, you'll see where the back door is, and there was some widening of the pre-existing walkway there. Some window wells, and then there are things that were there before but weren't shown on the prior survey, like window wells. They were there before, just not shown on the old survey because they didn't used to be considered structures. Same thing with some the AC. There was AC there before. It's just not shown on the old survey because there was a time when we didn't consider air conditioning units to be structures. And walls. My clients say the walls were there before, even though they're not depicted on the old survey, the retaining walls and the decorative walls. So some of the differences between the old survey and the new survey, I think, are attributable to increasingly strict interpretations by the building department over the years of what constitutes a structure. And there were some very minor adjustments done by the homeowner, not imagining that something like widening a pre-existing walkway to the back door could somehow involve a variance application or even a building permit application. On top of that, there was a 2015 change in the law, which changed the calculation for lot coverage. It was prior to that 20% and 20% plus 500 square feet on any and a lot of this size, and now it's been reduced as a result of that 2015 law down to 10,000 plus 6,500. So what we're seeking to do here is legalize those kind of minimal structures. They're all low-lying that were put in prior to that are already there. They're there, and to legalize a new proposed patio, which would be 288 square feet, to accommodate a new barbecue area. There is an existing barbecue area. The proposed barbecue area would go in exactly the same location as the old one. It's an enlarged barbecue area. It's become commonplace in this neighborhood and other places in East Hampton, I think, to have sort of outdoor kitchens, if you will, with cabinets and stuff in relation to a barbecue area. We would argue that under the criteria that you have to consider, that these are really not going to have any impact on the neighborhood whatsoever. The neighborhood is, all the lots are similarly improved with similar kinds of amenities. These are low-lying structures, as low as ground level. They are screened from neighbor sight. There are no neighbors who can see anything. In fact, the new barbecue area is really closest to a lot line that has a reserve area on the other side. So it's really not going to disturb any homeowner usage. We'd argue there's no other alternative for achieving the goal of having a modern kitchen barbecue area. These have become common accessories, and because we're already over lot coverage, there's no way to avoid a variance application. I'd also make the point that this type of variance has been granted many, many times in the past by the board. And I welcome any questions that you have. I know that Mr. Stefanik is also available. He's asked for a link. If you have any questions of him or me, I'm happy to have him.
Linda, I have a question.
Sure.
Maximum coverage used to be 14,500 square feet plus. Now the legally pre-existing coverage is quite a bit larger than that, 2,004.
Yes.
What is the maximum now?
The maximum, what's actually 16,778
Right.
square feet is permitted, allowed, because it's pre-existing, I would argue. Although that might not be the calculation under the current code, that is what's allowed. The calculation under the current code would be 14,513 square feet.
That's right. Okay.
Right, 14,513. But much of it is, some of what's there now is grandfathered. It's pre-existing, because it was put in before the code changed in 2015.
Great.
So if another proposal comes back, what do we look at as the max coverage?
Well, your max coverage is what is approved by you today. In the future, if nothing is approved by you, the max coverage, I would argue, is 16,778 square feet, which is the.
Yeah, I let me just weigh in on that. The max coverage is whatever the statute permits, unless modified, as Ms. Riley said, by the board.
I think we're saying different things. I mean, I think they're entitled.
We may, but that's my position as counsel to the board, is that you get whatever the statute permits, and if you have anything different than that, it's only pursuant to whatever approvals you may have had in the past by this board or otherwise. I mean, if you're legal non-conforming, just because of the passage of the statute, then you were legally built at the time, that you were established. So.
Right. So you would
something
agree,
either a statute or the board would have had to have increased it over whatever the current statute permits.
That's the, right, okay.
Okay, so I think we're saying the same thing, just a
I
little bit.
think we're saying the same thing. There's a CO that.
Right, if you have a CO, that's it, that's right.
Yeah. So what I'm measuring against is the survey that accompanied the last CO. I'm measuring against that.
Craig, you have any other questions?
No, as I understand it, if we accept the proposal for today, then in my understanding of this, that will be the max.
Yes, that would be the new max. That's correct.
Okay, I have no more questions.
Yeah. So you'd be moving from 16,778 up to 17,285.
Right.
Sorry, I'll wait to my question. So the existing code would say, but just reviewing the numbers.
If you were building it.
I know the question I want to ask. Let me just make sure I ask it in a way that's clear. The original coverage and maximums prior to the 2015 change were what?
Prior to the 2015 change, it was.
It was 20% plus 500.
I know.
20% plus 500. You want to know what that
I
number
just want to
is?
know the change in the numbers. Okay, the actual change. So it was X, then it went to X minus something.
Yes, it was.
Being asked for, then the existing built condition is X plus something, and now what's being asked for is X plus plus. Is that, I just want to know what those numbers
Yeah,
are.
so it was approximately 16,526 square feet. What
It was-
existed was 16,778. That's the 20% plus the 500. That's under the.
That was 16,526 square feet to be exact. That was what was allowed in 2015.
Gotcha. And what exists now is what?
What exists now is, let's see, what exists now is 16,778 square feet.
Gotcha. And what's being asked for is?
We're asking for new coverage, totally new coverage of 288 square feet. And we're asking you to bless, if you will, the continued maintenance of existing coverage that is not specifically covered by the last CO, which is 507 square feet.
Okay, I understand.
For a trash bin and some stepping stones.
Gotcha.
And stuff like that.
Understood. So a question Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
So it goes to, and you know, I visited the property. It's lovely. It seems to have a comfortably sized barbecue. I understand the desire to increase the scale of the existing outdoor kitchen. My question is, why is it not possible to accommodate the expanded kitchen within the existing extensive patio areas that you can coverage that you have? Why do you need additional relief in order to?
Well, I can let the homeowner answer that, but I think part of it is because the patio around the pool, which is the area that you must be talking about, is really sort of just large enough for some chaise lounges and an eating area. I mean, it's not a very huge area around the pool that's next to the barbecue area. And has been there for forever. Even, I mean, there was CO and a new, I mean, that's been there for quite a long time, since the house was built. And it's an adequate area for what it does now, which is support some lounge chairs. And not adequate for the kind of barbecue area that he wishes to have.
Understood. I just want to say it's not clear to me that a case has been made in terms of why it is that it's necessary to expand the degree of
But
coverage beyond in order to accommodate additional. The approval of the existing conditions and blessing that which is already there, I understand, and I think a case has been made. It's not clear to me why the additional is.
well, I submitted the plans
Mhm.
for the barbecue equipment that he wishes to add. And I submit that it would really take up the entire patio there on the south side of the pool. And what's the criteria? What the criteria is, if I may say, is not what's necessary.
Well, Ms. Riley, no, what it is whether or not there's a way to obtain the benefits sought by the applicant by a method that doesn't require a variance. And I think that's exactly what Mr. Rose is saying.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, well, the benefit that he's seeking is a larger barbecue area without disturbing his existing improvements.
Wow, it's the latter part of that is where you get into your trouble, right? So you can have a larger barbecue, but sometimes you can't have everything.
Well, is Mr. Stefanik on the line? Because I think he should be able to address why he can't achieve the benefit he's seeking in any other way. He's personally he's the one who's going to be affected by this. Mr. Stefanik.
We just have to swear you in, Mr. Stefanik. Pam, please swear him in.
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Paul Stefanik, 43 Ruxton Road.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So I think I would first echo what Ms. Riley had said, that we couldn't move the barbecue to the existing patio area around the pool because we would have a barbecue about 2 feet from the pool. So it's not practical to do that. The impetus for this was we have a grill that has, that is on a sort of on a substantial piece of stone, and the grill is old. It has to be replaced. It was existing there, and that structure is really kind of falling apart. So we said, well, why don't we just reconfigure the grill to something that is more suitable, and a little bit more updated. So in so doing, to make it more useful space and creating an area that is just a little bit more convenient. I think it adds about 200 square feet, probably not the exact right number, and that's kind of the issue, to just put in what we would like to have and do it in a way that is, certainly not going to interfere with anything any of the neighbors would do. It just makes it a more usable space. And there's really no other place to put it. And so that's really the as it stands right now, where when we use it, we're standing on grass, and because there wasn't a lot of coverage, so we thought it would make much more sense as opposed to creating a muddy area while we grill it to have a little bit of additional space to do it properly. And that's really all this is. We're not looking to build a huge compound or anything. What was there was pretty much there, and we're just trying to make it a little bit more user friendly. That's it.
All right. Anybody else have any questions or comments, so we can close the hearing? No. Motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. We'll send this. Joe, send this to work session, or
for discussion?
Where you stand right now?
I think we discuss it at work session. That's an interesting.
Okay. Very good. Pam, put that on for the work session.
Will do.
Next, we have Kathleen McLaughlin, 121 Panago Road. Can you read the hearing notice, please?
Application of Kathleen McLaughlin, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-4427.6 for area variances from Chapter 278 zoning to construct a swimming pool. Two 8.5-foot variances are requested from section 278-3A5C to construct a swimming pool 11.6 feet from the side yard lot line and 11.6 feet from a rear yard lot line, where the required side and rear yard setbacks are 20 feet, and any other relief necessary. The subject property is 19,639 square feet in area and is located at 121 Panago Road in Residence District R20. This project is classified as a type 2 action in accordance with SEQA.
Who's here for the applicant?
Good afternoon, board members. I guess it's still morning. My name is Alice Cooley of Matthews Kirsten Cooley at 241 Panago Road in East Hampton. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, and I'd like to share my screen if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Good, I did it. Great. Okay. So the applicant's goal here is to construct a new pool while keeping the existing house. The configuration of the house makes siting the pool difficult because the front of the lot is not perpendicular to any lot line. It creates a triangular shape in the rear yard here that you can see. The existing pool is at the end of its lifespan. Rather than replace the existing pool in its current location, which is right over here, the applicant would like to construct a new pool at what is effectively the rear of the property in order to increase safety in the pool area for her children, because visibility from the interior of the house is very low where the existing pool is, and the rear of the house has very large windows that look out upon the proposed pool area, and to increase privacy for the pool area and also for the neighbors to the south. The existing pool is slightly more conforming than what is proposed, but it's in a very bad location. It's exposed on the east side here. It shares a property line with the Verizon property and also the neighbors to the south here at 123 Panago. Their house is very close at about 11 feet from the property line. So we believe the relocation of the pool to the rear yard will actually ultimately benefit not only my client, but the owners of 123 Panago, because it will be much further from their house. The existing pool is also currently shaded most of the day. The proposed pool is smaller and it's only 10 by 22. Perhaps most importantly, no neighbors will be negatively affected if these variances are granted. So to the rear here, we have an ag reserve. It fronts on Panago Road, and then it wraps around the rear. And on the east here, we have the Verizon property. This board actually acknowledged the noise generated by the Verizon property in 2014. It granted a variance for a sound attenuation fence for the applicant's property at a height of 8 feet to provide sound attenuation from the condensers and the generators that probably right around here on the Verizon property. I'd like to show some photos. So this is the farm on 27, which you've all probably seen. It's just west of Town Hall. And if you look back here, you can see that it wraps around and it goes behind the Verizon property and my client's property. This is the Verizon building on Panago Road. Over here, you can see the neighbor's house at 123 Panago. This is the side of the Verizon building. And here you can see the sound attenuation fence that's on the McLaughlin property. This is the front of the McLaughlin house. This is the existing pool area. You can see the house in the background. This is the house at 123 Panago. This is the rear where the pool is proposed. And you can see that sound attenuation fence. This is facing the Verizon property to the east. This shows the rear of the house. You can see it has a lot of windows and large glass doors. It's a close-up of that sound attenuation fence, and you can actually see the Verizon building a little bit here too. And lastly, this is the farm field from the backyard. And you can see it's actively farmed, and it is an agricultural reserve area, so it will always be actively farmed, hopefully. And I'm happy to answer any questions, or I can go through the variance standards if you like. Maybe I should stop screen sharing.
I have a question. The existing pool, as I recall, is in a conforming location currently because of the way side yard setbacks were calculated prior to the code changes. Is that correct?
I would say that's like 99% correct. It's actually my understanding that it was an interpretation of how alternative setbacks were calculated previously, where instead of just counting, this is a conforming lot in terms of lot width, but I think they used to consider on flags, they would count the flag strip. So a little bit of a technical answer there.
All right, and now you're asking us to put it in a non-conforming location that requires a side and a rear yard setback.
Exactly.
And
where the affected neighbors are commercial.
Right. And the variances are about 50% each from the setback, a little bit less.
Little less.
A little less. And clients just purchased this in 2020, as I recall.
Exactly.
Okay, so you kind of went into this with eyes wide open. If you want to run through the variance standards, and then I'll see if there's anybody from the public, and then we'll hear from the other members of the board.
Sure. So no undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood, nor will any detriment be created. The applicant does not anticipate that either the Verizon property or the neighboring farm will be negatively affected by this grant. The purpose of, the double setback for pools is to reduce the effect of noise, and we don't anticipate that these neighbors will be negatively affected by pool noise. The benefit to the applicant cannot be achieved by another method because of the lot configuration and the strange triangular shape in the rear yard. The pool is modest, and the applicant could rebuild the existing pool in place and in kind, but it wouldn't be of the same benefit to the applicant. And my client's primary concern really is safety for her children. As you saw from the photos, the rear of the house has quite a bit of window, and she wants to be able to see her kids in the pool, even though they're old enough and they can swim without supervision. In the context of this particular property, the variance isn't substantial because the effects are not to a residential use, they're to a commercial use on each side. And the proposed variance will not have an adverse impact. I believe that this board has granted similar variances in the past for properties that border commercial properties. The alleged difficulty, you could argue, was self-created because she did purchase the property in this configuration. However, she could reconstruct the existing pool. She would just like to improve the outdoor space for herself and her family and make it more enjoyable.
Well, I actually had a conversation
You're muted, Phil.
with his attorney and said,
Is there anybody in the public?
Tom Osborne? Tom Osborne, mute yourself,
I'm just listening. I'm sorry, mute.
Yeah.
please.
And Alice, can we get the screen back, please?
Yeah.
Thanks. So there's nobody on the line that wants to speak. Can we get any questions or comments from the board members?
I have a question. I think I know the answer, but the coverage actually increases with the new pool. Is that correct?
Yes, but that also includes some other proposals,
I know.
but it's within the allowable.
I think the coverage is actually, no, I'm sorry, I think the coverage goes down. You go from coverage of 3866 to 3350.
Oh, that's exactly right. That's because she's removing that whole side area is patio. And there's also the patio in the rear, which she wishes to remove.
Okay, that's what I thought. My only other comment is I have talked to a couple people that live in the complex, and I'm not sure there's anything can be done about this, but one of the people is concerned about the noise, and you can't remove a pool and reduce the size of a cement patio and without making noise. How long is this going to go, and is there anything you can do about it?
Well, my client does not intend to build this summer. She wants to wait until the fall because she doesn't want to disturb her neighbors. I know that her neighbors did reach out to her with that concern, so she's happy to accommodate schedules, etc. I also know that demolition happens in a day. I just did this at my house. So the installation of a new pool doesn't actually take that long. It takes about a week. And yes, it's an inconvenience, but as neighbors and living in East Hampton, I think we know that it's something that we all have to put up with, and it's a relatively minor ask in terms of timing.
Joe, Andy, you have any comments?
I have a question, Chairman. Andy Barris. Nice to meet you, Alice. I just, what is the age of the pool, and also the property to the south? Do we have anyone on the line, or have you spoken to them? Do you have their support, or?
I have not spoken to them directly. I don't have their support. They're not an affected neighbor. I know that my client has had conversations with them where they were concerned about if she would be constructing the pool this summer, and she agreed not to do that.
Okay. Joe, any questions?
What is the age of the pool?
I am just checking on that, if you don't mind giving me a minute, because I don't know off the top of my head. I just know it's in bad shape. I'm going to guess 2009.
Okay.
Em, do we have a copy of the CO in the file? I didn't see it among my documents.
I have it. We just got an updated one
Okay, so it should be indicated on there, no?
with the age of the pool.
When it was CO'd, that would indicate age.
No, it just lists the structures. There have been a number of COs, so it's not.
Well, you have a certificate of occupancy for the existing pool, correct?
I have the building permit here, and that was applied for in 2009.
Okay, so at the oldest it's going to be is 2009.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Motion to close the hearing?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Does everybody know where they kind of lay on this one, so we can poll the board and get a determination, or want to send this to work session?
Just have if we have our practice of just having the determination, so we vote, we see what we're voting on. I think sounds
Okay.
like there's support for
All
it.
right, so let's send this to work session. The next one is Susan A. Carches, 2009 Revocable Trust, 5 Egypt Close. Pam, you want to read the notice?
Sure. Application of the Susan A. Carches 2009 Revocable Trust, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-486 for an area variance from Chapter 278 zoning to legalize a walkway. A 22.5-foot variance is requested from Section 278 3A5A to legalize a walkway constructed 22.5 feet from the front yard lot line where the required setback is 45 feet and any other relief necessary. The subject property is 21,494 square feet in area and is located at 5 Egypt Close in Residence Districts R40 and R80. This project is classified as a Type 2 action in accordance with SEQA.
Okay, thank you. Who's here for the applicant?
Hi, John Tarbett for the applicant, as well as Michael Derrick from Landscape Details. On the call.
Hello, everybody.
Actually, I might try to share my screen after Alice did such a nice job sharing her screen. It should work. You can see that. So what we have before the board this morning is a mistake. The village code exempts postman's walks, which is the walkway from your house to the street or the walkway from your house to your driveway from needing to meet coverage or front yard setbacks. The problem you run into is that postman's walks are defined as being less than 48 inches wide. And on some properties, unless you know that technical distinction, you want to design a walkway that is in keeping with the front porch or the patio. So what we have here is at least in my opinion and in Landscape Details and the owner's opinion, is a walkway from the house to the driveway, which is very modest and in keeping with the nice walkway, keeping with the character of the house, character of the neighborhood. There's actually a lot of other, if you drive around Egypt close, there's a lot of other walkways which are similarly wide. And if you notice, the main part of the walkway lines up with the width of the porch. So it's all meant to be aesthetically very pleasing. The property itself is well under coverage. The house is, as you can tell, a modest home. The only issue was that it's wider than 48 inches wide, so technically it needs to meet setbacks. I think the intent, I'm happy to, the best I can come up with is that the intent of the code at limiting walkways to 48 inches wide was to prevent someone from building a giant front deck in their front yard and calling it a walkway. That's not the case here. As you can tell, it's clearly a walkway. And we're hoping that the board will grant the variance to allow it to remain as is.
All right. Anybody on the line from the public that would like to speak?
There are no callers on the line currently.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments? Anybody from the board?
Bill, I just have a question in terms of, I don't know, Billy or Vincent, you're new like me. So when did this change in terms of the rule regarding the postman's walk go into effect?
Maybe Billy knows.
I think we started excluding them maybe in 15 or 16 or 14.
Okay, so it's, I understand, and it's
been about 7 years.
Let me just make the comment that I have no problem with this application and think it's perfectly appropriate and it's nice. So I just going forward, just for those members of the land use bar and the board, for people to it's one thing for it to have accidentally been done in a non-conforming way in the context of a rules change or interpretation change in recent years, but going forward, people shouldn't assume that that's a carte blanche to make these kinds of mistakes going forward and new
understood
actions.
All right. So I make a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. I think Vincent, you could write a determination for this, approving this for setbacks, but it's not excluded from the coverage calculation. Does that work?
Yeah. Understood. Thank you.
Okay. The next one, we have the Botanical Garden LLC, 5 Hook Pond Lane. Pam, can you read the notice, please?
Sure. Application of Botanical Garden LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 3018141 for variances from Chapter 278 zoning and Chapter 163 freshwater wetlands to construct a barbecue, multiple patios, stepping stones, retaining walls, and a swimming pool. A wetlands permit and variances are requested in accordance with sections 163.2 and 163.3 and section 278.388, which requires structures be set back 150 feet from wetlands. Variances of 62.3 feet, 52 feet, 62 feet, 18.4 feet, and 10.1 feet are required to construct a barbecue, 87.2 7 feet from wetlands, patios, the nearest being 98 feet from wetlands, stepping stones, the nearest being 88 feet from wetlands, retaining walls 131.6 feet from wetlands, and a swimming pool 139.9 feet from wetlands, and any other relief necessary. The subject property is 56,153 square feet in area and is located at 5 Hook Pond Lane in Residence District R160. This project may require a wetlands permit from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and is classified as a type 2 action in accordance with CEQA.
Who's here for the applicant?
Hi, John Tarbett for the applicant. Just a quick note, we did obtain a DEC permit for the application. This property is on Hook Pond Lane, which would be just past, heading up to Main Beach, just on your left, just past the top of Town Pond. There is a wetland across Hook Pond Lane, and there's a wetland in the front yard. The applicant is looking to install a pool. It will meet a 2-foot separation of groundwater, and it is tucked in the far rear corner, as far from the wetlands as possible. The one wetland would be across the street, and the other wetland would be on the other side of the home. We did not ask for any side yard setbacks to not infringe on the neighbors, but we do need a 11-foot variance for the pool. There is a number of variances because each of the structures, like the patio, is counted separately. But in essence, the significant variance would be the wetland variance for a pool. The pool equipment itself is proposed to be outside jurisdiction. And we're also going to propose, like we did a few weeks ago, to waterproof the pool. So the pool itself will not leach at all into the groundwater. And the pool equipment, so in the event somebody was going to backwash the pool, that would all be located outside of wetland jurisdiction.
So
go ahead, Phil. That was pretty much.
That's the same technology where it kind of seals the pool so that it's like what when a rooftop pool is put in a building, so that there's no leaching or leakage that normally happens when you have a gunite pool. Is that correct?
So I did look into it a little bit, and I believe there are probably a number of ways to do this. What we're proposing here is there's a way to do it between the cement and the gunite. It's sort of another layer, and it's a waterproofing. It's probably I believe it's a paint, but there's a way to add it. It's another stage to the process of building a pool, and that stage is what prevents it from leaching into the groundwater.
Okay. Is there anybody on the line from the public?
There are no callers on the line.
Is there anybody else on the line that wants to comment on this application? I see some other attorneys on here. Okay. Who from the board has questions for the applicant? Any questions for the applicant?
I just have a question. It may, I don't believe that under the regulations that the work involved here triggers any change or action regarding the septic system of this property. But I guess it's a question, since this is an environmentally sensitive location in terms of its runoff into the wetland areas. What is the status of the septic system, and is there, going forward, is there any anticipation of doing any work regarding the impact of this, upgrading the septic system, given its impact on the pond?
So correct. As you know, a few years ago, the village started to promote low nitrogen septic systems, and there's a number of triggers in the village code that require a homeowner to install those septic systems. This particular septic system is a non-conforming. It's not a low nitrogen septic system, although it is a performing septic system. It's working perfectly fine. I think if the septic system had been located anywhere in the rear yard, then it would have made perfect sense, because we'd have all the heavy machinery back there, and it would be a very good time to replace the septic system. In this case, since the septic system was, and the reason why I know the answer to your question was because we did look at this as something we could offer up. However, it was determined that with the septic system performing and being in the front yard, at this time, we didn't propose to upgrade the septic system just because the wetland is so close to it that you would be essentially digging up the wetland so we didn't necessarily see the benefit or the nexus between proposing a pool on the other side of the home to replace it this time.
Understood. I just wanted to make sure we had the question on the record for as we see future applications where there is perhaps a more a closer convergence of the work and the systems. It might be something that we would at least be able to discuss.
I appreciate it. We definitely, had it been in the rear yard, 100% we were planning on doing it. It just on the opposite side of the house, and it makes sense at this time.
And I'd also like to note for the record, we received, and they were sent out by Pam Bennett, a letter from Juan M. Ocampo, who lives at 12 Hook Pond, who is not in favor of this application on 5 Hook Pond Lane, nor the one at 11 and 15. And an additional letter from Kenneth Lipper of 5 Hook Pond, who is not in favor of this application at 5 or the 11 and 15 one also. So I do note that both of those homeowners have pools. Pam, do I need to?
It's a very involved neighborhood, and we have seen them oppose applications almost uniformly in that area.
Okay.
Those particular neighbors.
Do I need to read these letters?
No, you do not. They're in the
No.
file. You've made reference to them, so the public knows that they're there. You're fine, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? No. All right, so do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think this one's pretty straightforward. Joe, you want to send this to work session, or I think we all kind of know where we are on this.
I just think we should be in that. It's a good practice to have the determinations for when we vote on them. So we're seeing what we're.
Okay.
I mean, in the past, as I understand it, we voted when we had the determinations. Now, which was a month later. Now there's only going to be a couple of weeks later. Gives Vincent a little time.
Well, not really. And we'll talk about it in the future, you and I, Mr. Rose, privately, but you may want to reconsider that on certain things for certain reasons, but we'll get to that another time.
Okay. Just trying to establish, make sure I understand our practice. So
yeah, everyone has to know the rules, and we all follow them. That's it. No question.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Thanks, the board. Good day.
So next we have Hook Pond Lane LLC, 11 Hook Pond Lane and 15 Hook Pond Lane. Pam, can you read the notice?
Sure. Application of Hook Pond Lane LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-814-2 for variances from Chapter 278 zoning to permit the transfer of 12,220 square feet of land to to property identified as 15 Hook Pond Lane. A 122,612 square foot variance is requested from Section 278-3A1 to reduce the size of the property from 49,608 square feet to 37,388 square feet, where the minimum required lot area is 160,000 square feet, and any other relief necessary. The land area is being transferred to property identified as 15 Hook Pond Lane. This project requires subdivision approval of the Village Planning Board. The subject property is located at 11 Hook Pond Lane and is in Residence District R160. This project is classified as a Type 2 action in accordance with SEQA.
Thank you, Pam. Who's here for the applicant?
Chairman O'Connell, I am Britton Bistrian.
Hi, Britton.
Morning.
How are you?
I
I have to swear Britton in.
Yep.
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Britton Bistrian, 21 Nepean Harbor Road, Amagansett, New York, 11930.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman O'Connell, members of the board. As you noted, I'm Britton Bistrian representing Hook Pond Lane LLC and 15 Hook Pond Lane LLC. The proposed lot line modification and variance request represents a transfer of 12,220 square feet from 11 Hook Pond to 15. Both lots are significantly undersized in the zoning district. However, this adjustment will make the two lots more similar in size. It's the intent in zoning to reduce nonconformities over time. And although this does not make either lot the required 160,000 square feet by the zoning district, it does make 15 less nonconforming and more appropriately sized to its neighbor. In addition, the application would reduce an existing dimensional nonconformity on 15 Hook, and both parcels would then meet the lot width requirement. I will note that I saw the letters in the file, and I believe the neighbor, I didn't see any content in those letters relating to this specific, they were talking about environmental issues in a pool. So I would note that although the chairman did note that there was letters in the file for 15 and 11 Hook, the content of those letters had absolutely nothing to do with this proposal.
Well,
but if any,
they did ask, they did say that the two should be heard as one application rather than two. I think you and I both know we can't do that under the law, but that implicated this application to the extent that implicates anything.
right, so there's totally separate ownership. And
No, I understood and I agree with you. I'm just saying that's the only, I think, place where it crosses over, I think. I'm pretty much agreeing with you.
Okay, thank you. Otherwise, if the board has any questions that you'd like me to address, I'm happy to do so.
So is there anybody from the public on the, that would like to comment on this?
There are no callers on the line right now.
Okay. So I do have a question, Britton. We're still, even if we did, if the lot lines are modified, you're still meeting setbacks for the lot that has the lot that was being made smaller, correct? So I'm reading this?
Correct. There's one of the lots is improved, and that improvement after the lot line modification will continue to meet all dimensional zoning.
Okay. Any other board members have questions for the applicant?
I do.
Okay.
And it's trying again to understand. So the zoning here calls the lot dimensions called for under zoning are, I don't have the numbers in front of me. It's
160,000 square feet.
160,000 square feet. And we have two properties now that are both below that, not non-conforming. Pre-existing non-conforming properties that need to be, that for one of which has a house on it. And the purpose of this application is what? What's the basis for doing this?
When the two lots are similarly sized, one would make the argument that that's more consistent with zoning, and that you could make two similarly sized developments.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't find the fact that it's more consistent with they both remain. Neither becomes conforming under the action. Right. They both remain pre-existing non-conforming size. So the rationale would appeared to me on reviewing the application to be that by moving some additional area to the property to the south, is it the south or the east, that would allow for a larger home to be built on the newly expanded lot. Is that the rationale for why it's being done?
That's I don't know if that's the rationale, the result, but it also proportionally reduces the size of the house that you could expand on the existing lot. So it just depends which way you're looking at it. And although they're both non-conforming. The application does reduce one non-conformity. So you are improving the existing condition.
But on the flip side, it increases.
Expands the non-conformity of the other. Right,
That's right.
right.
No, I'm sorry. I'm speaking of the lot width at the street.
Oh, okay.
That they both become conforming, not the lot area. There's two non-conformities existing and one of them goes away as a result of this.
But there's a reason to be, the reason to be doing this is to expand the capacity to develop the what's now vacant lot.
Yes, I mean, if you want to, Billy very succinctly pointed that out in his memo. You can build a house that's 288 square feet larger. That's the net result.
Sure. So what it comes down to is whether or not you prefer as a board to see one big use as opposed to two smaller uses on non-conforming
Well,
lots.
or one,
That's really your choice, right?
or one bigger and one smaller. It's right.
That's what I mean.
Right. There's a discussion to be had about what this is going to happen.
Exactly correct, Mr. Rose.
Okay. Thank you. That's my question.
And we have in the past traded equalized lots where we're trading one nonconformity for another. So,
Well, we're right. I think there have certainly been cases where we have regularized some of the lot of the questions where there are weird shapes and the like, but this one just requires some understanding and discussion.
okay. Does anybody have any further questions of the applicant? All right.
Well, I think you have to wait and see what's proposed to be used on these lots before you can do much of anything.
I think that's outside of our purview.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I think, Mr. Humphrey, what you can do is assume that they're going to be used to the maximum permitted under the zoning code for the newly established lot. I think that's a rational direction for the board to take and sustainable by any court should they review it.
So I think Craig's point's a good point, and we look forward to discussing that with you, council.
All
I'd
right.
just like to highlight for the board's information, I know sometimes the maps get very busy, that both building envelopes and allowable development on both lots as existing and proposed are contained within your board's files, so you can analyze that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's actually laid out very nicely. Thank you.
And if I could just add two items real quickly for the board. So when the planning board was reviewing this application, which the planning board, I would just reiterate, had no real concerns with the lot line modification. So it created two more normally sized properties, and none of the lot lines that are proposed are abnormal or unusually shaped, which is one consideration of the planning board. But the improved lot is still capable of building a new septic system and meeting the wetland setbacks. So that was something that I was concerned about. And secondly, the current vacant lot is actually eligible for alternative setback relief because it's non-conforming in lot width. And a result of this is that it's going to have to comply with the regular setbacks. It won't be eligible for the relief provisions because it'll conform to the lot width requirements. So.
Valuable point to have on the record regarding what we may see in the future. This is
Billy, I remember when this came in front of the planning board a number of years ago, and there was concern about if the lot line modification happened, it would trigger an FAA emergency fire access road. Is that still an issue?
No, so the fire marshal has weighed in. He provided the planning board with an opinion, and no improvements to Hook Pond Lane are required as a result.
Okay, so we wouldn't be changing the width of the lane, because I remember that was a large concern last time. Okay. Do I have a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
And Craig, you seconded it? All in favor? Aye. All right. We'll send this to work session down.
Thank you.
Thanks, Britton. The next one we have is 13 Sowers Way LLC, which is 13 Sowers Way. Pam, if you could read the notice, please.
Application of 13 Sarah's Way LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 3019113.2 for area variances from Chapter 278 zoning to construct a tennis court. A 16.6-foot variance is requested from Section 278 3A 5A to construct a tennis court 58.4 feet from the front yard lot line where the required setback is 75 feet. A 16.5-foot variance is requested from Section 278 3A 5C to construct a tennis court 23.5 feet from the rear yard lot line where the required setback is 40 feet and any other relief necessary. The subject property is 80,000 square feet in area and is located at 13 Sarah's Way in Residence District R80 and the Main Street Historic District. This project is classified as a type 2 action in accordance with SEQA.
Who's here for the applicant?
Good afternoon again, board members. Alice Cooley, Matthews Kirsten Cooley, 241 Panago Road in East Hampton. I am joined today by my client's architects, William Rutledge, who's also here on the Zoom call with me, and Scott Sotiel, who's called in. They're both from Ferguson Shamamian. And I believe we also have on the line Justin Willard of Hollander Landscape Design. If you don't mind, I'm going to ask William to share his screen while I speak.
Good.
So this property on Sarah's Way is presently vacant. As you know, we're requesting 2 variances in order to locate a proposed tennis court on the site in a north-south orientation. As the board is familiar, a tennis court with an east-west orientation would make the tennis court unplayable for many hours of the day. Later on, William will present a sun study prepared by his office, which demonstrates the sun passing over the court at different times of the day, once I briefly present the variance standards. No undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood, nor will any detriment to nearby properties be created from either the front yard or rear yard variance sought by the applicant. The applicant is seeking a front yard variance of 16 feet, where the required setback is 75 feet. The applicant is also seeking a rear yard variance of 16 feet where the required setback is 40 feet. The tennis court's primary playing area meets the required setback on both sides, and only the back court area is outside of the setback, along with the retaining wall and fencing. It is a reduced size court at 110 by 55 feet. The fence is proposed to be a soft mesh netting on cedar posts, which eliminates the typical noise generated from a ball hitting a fence. The proposed tennis court will also be sunken with a retaining wall, and the court surface will be composed of deco turf. The tennis court will be heavily vegetated with 2 rows of privacy hedge along the edge of the court and 2 rows of hedge at the property lines. So we anticipate no visual or noise impact. We also note that the front yard that the applicant is seeking relief from is a cul-de-sac at the end of Sarah's Way. And in that sense, it differs from a traditional front yard. If you look at the cul-de-sac area, you can see it's mostly flagged driveways that extend quite a bit. The benefit sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by another method that is feasible for the applicants to pursue. While the tennis court could be placed in a conforming location, the lot configuration is such that a traditional tennis court with a north-south configuration, which, as the board knows, is preferred due to the east-west rising and setting of the sun, is not possible without the requested variances. The applicant is an avid tennis player, and as such, his usability of the court would greatly decrease without the requested relief. The requested variances in the context of this particular property and the surrounding properties are not substantial given the sunken court, the substantial vegetation, and the overall distance from surrounding residences, particularly from the court's playing area. The impact will be minimal. The proposed variances will have no adverse effects on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood. I do note that the board has granted similar variances in the past, and the alleged difficulty is not entirely self-created. While the property does have room to construct a tennis court without the variance relief, it's just not in the preferred configuration. If you don't mind, maybe William could show his sun study.
Sure. So we've prepared some studies basically with depicting both court orientations. So this is the orientation that would be allowed on the property as of right, which the east-west orientation. And our sun studies we have set up and geolocated to be on the property during the summer solstice. And so this is, bear in mind as you're watching kind of the effect of the sun passing over the tennis court, this is actually kind of the best case scenario because it's the longest day of the year. So this is happening, relatively early in the morning. So we start out our studies at 6 a.m. But at other days of the year, this would actually be happening later in the morning. So as you can see, very difficult to play tennis when you have the sun kind of directly in your eyes as it's rising in the morning. So this is the view at 6 a.m. And then this is the view at 7 a.m. And then this is the view at 8 a.m. And then similarly in the evening with this orientation, the view looking west as the sun is setting. This is the view at 6 p.m. and then the view at 7 p.m. and then the view at 8 p.m. So again, challenging with the sun direction. And then, so we have also prepared studies that show the court in the north-south orientation that we're proposing. So this is the view looking south, same time and place on the summer solstice at 6 a.m. And then this is the view looking south at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., and then similarly in the evening at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., and 8 p.m. So as you can see, the benefit to the client would be great with much improved in this court orientation. And I also might just show some images of the court that we prepared. So this is like the 3D model showing the materials that are proposed, the soft mesh netting and wood frame, the sunken court, and heavily vegetated around the perimeter. And actually, we also have a detail image of the netting, which here it is. So this is the kind of netting that's proposed. So as you can see, would not produce, there would not be a concern with it producing noise with the tennis ball.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody on the public, from public on the line?
Yes, there are 2 callers on the line. Let me patch them through. Caller 646-342, you're on the line.
Anybody there? Hello?
Caller ending in 1573, you're also on the line.
And with Hollander Design for any comments or questions from the board.
Okay. I have a couple of comments. It's always been the village's position, and it remains, that when you were building a new, you have a vacant piece of land and you're building a house, to comply with all the regulations. So that's always been our position and remains so. I also noticed that you impact 3 neighbors. Have you been in contact with those neighbors? Any support from those neighbors or opposition from those neighbors?
I think we impact 2 neighbors. There's the front yard setback, and then to the rear, it's 2 neighbors. We have not heard from one of the neighbors. The other neighbor asked us some questions about drainage control, and we addressed them with her.
Okay. I thought you had 3 neighbors. And then the other thing I noticed on, and maybe the architect, the landscape architect can speak to this, is you're about 140 feet under your max coverage, and there is gravel everywhere, which does not count as coverage, as you know, but in some odd places, like between the pool house and the pool, where you're typically in bare feet and you have gravel. I'd like to hear from the from the landscape architect. One of my concerns is that, all of a sudden these are going to be replaced with hardscapes, and then necessitating another variance for coverage. So can the landscape architect hop on, please?
Yes, this is Justin again. And we did have conversations early on with the clients about the type of materials and paving, and we are very close with coverage, and they were amenable to doing the gravel, which allowed us to have a harder surface than just lawn for the furniture in the areas outside the pool house and the viewing terrace from the tennis court.
Okay. Any other board members have any questions, concerns?
No.
I have a question, just picking up on your comment, Phil, about the being able to comply as of right on a large vacant site. And I'm not proposing this, I'm just asking a question. If the configuration of the house, there's a lot of stuff being built on this site. If it were reconfigured, would it not be possible, or it looks like it might be possible, to have the same orientation, north-south or east, whatever the optimal tennis court configuration is, without having the same degree of variances being sought? I mean,
Unfortunately, that's not the case.
Okay, explain why that's not the case.
Sure. It does not meet the setback in the north-south configuration on either side of the property. And we tried to equal out the request from the rear and from the front yard, so that the variance request is equal. They're both 16-foot requests. Obviously, the front yard setback request is greater than the side rear yard request. But there is nowhere on this site to locate the tennis court in the north-south configuration. It could be located where it is conforming and it is east-west.
Or on a slight diagonal, presumably.
I don't know.
Well, it doesn't have to, the options are not limited to exactly east-west or exactly north-south, presumably.
Yeah, I don't think that it could fit completely within the setbacks, even if you were to have it at an angle. Well, so it obviously, I'm sorry, it will fit in the east-west orientation within the setbacks if you were to reorient, but I don't know that you could get a significant benefit from placing it at an angle.
That's correct.
Any other questions from any of the board members? All right. Do I have a motion to close the hearing?
I'm moved.
Second, anybody?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Send it to work session. Next, thank you very much, Alice. And thank you, Landscape Architects. Next, we have Robin B. Shahani, 13 Pondview Lane. Pam, will you read the notice, please?
Sure. Application of Robin B. Shahani, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-919.5 for area variances from Chapter 278 zoning to construct additions to an existing residence. A 15.9-foot variance is requested from Section 278-3A4A to legalize and complete the construction of second-story additions to a residence located 18.1 feet from the side yard lot line where the required side yard setback is 34 feet and any other relief necessary. The subject property is 40,089 square feet in area and is located at 13 Pondview Lane in Residence District R80. This project is classified as a Type 2 action in accordance with SEQA.
Thank you. Who's here for the applicant?
See, good afternoon. Tom Osborne from Osborne and McGowan, PC 135 Main Street, East Hampton, New York, for the applicant. The owner, also Robin, is here. The project, which unfortunately was already in progress, was stopped back, I think, in November last year. And the goal is to have the four-dormer situation above the garage to be habitable space. So the question is whether an undesirable change is produced in the neighborhood because of this. The answer is no. It's habitable space, and the variance is only needed for part of what's there.
Are there other precedents in the neighborhood that are similar in nature in terms of the scope, the magnitude of the variance that you're aware of? And if so, could you tell us which ones?
There was a variance for this property granted back in 1996, which allowed the addition of the two-car garage, which is underneath the addition. Now, at that time, the setback, I believe, was 25 feet, and the variance was granted to 15 feet, and that is there right now.
Right, but you agree that a second floor has other potential adverse impacts on neighbors, for example, right?
Possibly for light, noise, that type of thing, sure.
Also privacy, right?
Yeah, privacy. I think the only neighbor who would be impacted would be if you're looking at the property to the right side. I asked Pam a couple of days ago if anybody had written in or responded to the application. I think at that time the answer was no. I don't know if anybody has since then.
Still no.
Okay. So what's the alternative here, considering the fact that it's already been built? If the board says no, a large portion, over half, would have to be removed. I don't think that Robin would keep the rest of it. I don't think it would make sense. So probably the whole thing would have to go. And then the original roof would have to be put back on. It was a peaked roof. Is the variance requested substantial? Yes, it is. Will it have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood? I think no, other than visual, or as Vincent was talking about, maybe light or sound. Was it difficulty self-created? Yes, well, unfortunately, because of roof leaks and how this came about, the question was, do you do part of the roof to re-roof it and not the part over the garage, or do you do the project all at once? And for practical reasons, it was done all at once, but without a building permit. However, nobody involved had any idea that a variance would have been needed. I think as a practical matter, when you look at the property, given the location of the two-car garage being about 15 feet off the side yard, you'd figure, okay, you can go above the garage, it's fine. But that's wrong. Matter of law, it's wrong. And that's well understood. I don't know if Robin, you wanted to add anything here?
Yeah, do you need to swear me?
Yes.
Swear me.
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Robin Shahani, 13 Pondview Lane.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So I purchased, thank you for the time today. I purchased the home about 5 or 6 years ago. The plan was always to either rebuild or renovate pretty substantially. And so that's been in the works, the planning for that, the architectural plans and so on has been in the works for quite some time. Last summer during COVID, there was a need when some guests, so I knew that there were issues above the garage with the roof. I was probably in the worst condition. And so we were starting to get a little bit of leaking. I figured we'd solve that problem, when we did the entire roof. And then I had some guests visiting and it proceeded to rain in the house in their closet. So we realized that the source of the water that was going all the way down to the basement, because it's a one-story house, was the roof. And so we made the decision to completely reshingle and put in, there's some copper crickets and so on to do that in the roof. The decision that was taken, and literally as it was happening, was because I'd asked the contractor to bid on the overall plan for the house. he said, well, do we want to just frame this out so that they can, and not finish the dormers, which by the way are set in from the edge of the garage. They comply with the top ridge line of the original roof, but simply to frame it out so that we could have the roofers take care of that while they were there. And so we made the decision to do it. I didn't anticipate a variance being needed because variance had been granted to turn the garage itself into habitable space. And so we made the decision at the time to do it. We are planning to use the space, quite frankly, to work from. We've moved out of the city. We live here full time. It's my fiance, myself, and our dog. And so we plan to live here full time and raise a family and all that other stuff. So I don't think it's, I didn't think it would be a terrible intrusion. I should also say further that my neighbors at 15 Pondview, I did reach out via letter. I hadn't heard back, and so I was following up this week with an email. We've had very pleasant interactions in the past. They were here when the construction was happening and didn't raise any concerns. In fact, they were apologizing for the noise that they created with the various things that they were doing. And their master bedroom has been built above their garage with a dormer that looks directly into our house and our bedroom. This is actually a lot less intrusive than that because it just looks out to to their backyard and to the back of Sarah's Way, if you will. So, and I would argue that, the house across the street similarly has added a second story and looks over this way. So I appreciate your consideration. I apologize for getting started ahead of the permit, but our plan is actually much broader than that, and we were seeking a permit for the entire thing all at once.
One quick question. You're planning on renovating the entire house in the future also, is that correct?
Yeah, and at this point, we were trying to do it obviously over the winter, but given where we are in the year, our plan is to push it off until, after the season.
Okay, and so you were aware that the variance granted was for the habitable space in the garage, didn't talk anything about increasing the space or raising the roof line?
Correct, yeah. I mean, it's a modification of, a fraction of the roof line in order to, accommodate being able to use that space upstairs.
It looks like 4 substantial dormers.
I'm sorry?
It was several substantial dormers when I looked at it.
It's a dormer on each side of the garage, yes.
On all 4 sides.
Yeah, it adds very little square footage given the space, but I understand, the notion of substantial as a percentage of the overall. We were just looking for space to be able to work, and not be in one of the bedrooms, if you will.
Do any board members have any questions for either Tom or Robin?
Just, there were a lot of materials about the history of the approvals on the site. Can you just walk me through, Tom, or the applicant, exactly what's been done? What was approved when and how we got to the situation that we're in?
Sure. Billy Hajak's memorandum points out that on January 12th, 1996, the zoning board granted relief to build the 2-car garage, which is underneath this dormer structure, to be where it is now, when the setback at that point was 25 feet, which was, I think, a substantial variance, but that was then. And then in May 1998, another variance was granted to be able to convert the 2-car garage completely to habitable space. None of that was done. However, the variance is still alive and kicking as far as I can tell. That could be done with a building permit, no more zoning board approval necessary. But again, that hasn't been done at this point. And that's it.
And those were all under prior owners, of course.
Right.
So then the intent is to continue to convert the garage into habitable space. Just talk about now what's underway now.
Sure.
How it diverges from what was approved in 1998.
Yes, I think I don't know what the original intent was other than to create additional, living space. What I'll say is it's a 2.5-car garage effectively because it abuts the house. It it is framed up against the house, but there's no pass-through. Our plan was simply to create a pass-through so that it becomes a part of the house and convert just that half-car portion of that space, and then have a staircase to go upstairs rather than the pull-down stair for the attic that's there. So our observation was simply that there wasn't going to be a lot of space in that half-car space, and so we wanted to try and make the upstairs usable, and rather have a pull-down that came in. We wanted to put in a staircase. The staircase necessitated changing the roof line a bit so that we could actually get up there and stand up as we went upstairs.
But did the original 1998 approval anticipate a 2-story or a 1-story use of that building which was granted a variance?
It only referred to converting the then existing 2-car garage to habitable space. Nothing else was said.
So the recent decision was to build a 2nd story and create these dormers as the expansion to accommodate habitable space above the garage.
It was to modify the attic that's there to make it habitable space.
So I think one of your questions might be the 1998 variance, would that have allowed the whole garage space, including up to the roof, to be converted to habitable space? And I'm not sure what the answer is. I wasn't there in 98.
Thank you.
But it could be that it was. I just don't know.
Okay, there's quite further questions for us to discuss, but thank you for the review.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
Is the work stop still in effect? Stop order?
Yes.
It is, and we've complied.
So you could begin doing something now, or do you have to go through any more procedures?
We would be filing for a work permit with the support of, a variance.
A building permit needs to be obtained.
It depends what we rule, Craig.
Correct.
You could also come up with a schedule of work to be done and when it's going to get done and all that kind of thing?
We absolutely could.
All right. Any other comments from the board? All right. Motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, let's move this to work session. Thank you. Anybody have any other business?
Thank you very much.
We'll close the meeting. All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Well done, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
In a pinch, in a pinch.
Thank you for your assistance, and we're happy to have you on board. Very happy to have you.
We are thrilled to be here and we're honored to be representing you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.